Hey guys, welcome to a fresh video here on the channel. This is not a trade period update. Well, it could be, I guess. This video is about Elijah Hollands. And the reason for this video being created in the first place is because an article has come out via The Age and is written by Peter Ryan. And it touches on the struggles of Elijah Hollands. And I read it this morning and I think it gave a bit more context as to why he wasn't playing this year. And I thought it was important to document this article. And so in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the quotes from Elijah himself, giving context as to what had happened to him this year. And maybe we can discuss at the end of this video and in the comments below, the situation. Because look, this raises a complexity when it comes to footy fandom, because these are human beings, even though they might be getting paid more than the average person. They still go through the same human experience that we all do. So there's a common misconception that is raised in this article that Elijah Hollands was out partying. And basically, he was living in the fast life, as it's quoted here. And that simply wasn't the case according to Peter Ryan and Elijah Hollands himself. It says here that he was genuinely struggling. So it details what happened in the early part of 2025. So his first attempt to nip things in the bud was when he went on indefinite leave before Carlton's round 1 match against Richmond. And that obviously alerted us that there was a problem. Then there was an issue in round 10 against Sydney, where he decided, with Carlton support, to take the serious reset that he needed to address his challenges. And according to this article, it's worked. It's put him back on track to attack his football future with the confidence that he has the tools and the strategies to revive his career, either at Carlton, where he has another year remaining on his contract, or at another club if it comes to that. So he's quoted here as saying, "A big part of this year has just been walking around with guilt and shame. It was hard to bite that bullet and make that decision and go away again mid-season and take some leave. I was feeling like I was letting so many people down, not being able to be at the club and available for friends and family. Getting the support back from the club and from family and friends, saying it was the right thing to do, gave me some comfort and some reassurance that I was doing the right thing and I should attack it with 100% effort." So towards the end of last year, his mental health began deteriorating and he began distancing himself from key support networks in his life. He flagged this with the club in the football department in January, and he fessed up that despite the support he had received, he wasn't on top of his struggles when round 1 came to be. He decided with coach Michael Voss that his best option was to take a break. There were many assumptions made about him, given he was traded from Gold Coast at the end of 2023 and the lifestyle that he was leading. So social media is such a tool. It can be such a tool, but it can also be such a hindrance to the human spirit. And, we saw this year rumors circulating, flying around about what Elijah had done without anyone really knowing the facts of the matter. Now, he's quoted here as referring to his battle with alcohol. And he's quoted here as saying, "In some of the darker times, I turned to alcohol to cope with some of the stresses I had been putting myself under and the mental fatigue and battles I had been going through. It very much has been a thing I have done in isolation, which is obviously a battle. It hasn't been a thing where I've been out with mates and taking things too far in public areas. It's been in isolation and at home." So we hoped that the short break early in the year would be the circuit breaker, where he could work on some of the issues that contributed to how he was feeling. And he's quoted here as saying, "It was sitting in the back of my mind that I was missing footy." He was watching Carlton lose games early in the season, and he said, "There is certainly that element that you are letting your teammates down and you are letting your club and your fans down by not being out there participating." Then he begins training again. He returned to the team in round 6, and we saw he had a great game against Geelong. He was absolutely brilliant. That was in round 7. And then the Sydney game rolled around, and this is what he had to say about that night. "I was just having a horrible game. I was not doing any of the things I would usually do typically well, which was playing with me. I remember just feeling like a complete pedestrian out there. In the last quarter, I came off the ground and I just could not breathe. I went to the bench and told our psychologist I could not breathe, I could not settle down, and my head was spinning. I was almost having a mini panic attack, which I'd never experienced before out on the field. Obviously, even during that period when I returned to the AFL side this year, there were things I was working on behind the scenes, but I felt like it never really translated to on the field. I felt like football has always been a place of comfort for me, but just on this night in Sydney, it reached a new level where I felt like that feeling and emotion was coming out with me on the ground. It was a pretty worrying moment because footy had been somewhere I could go to, and all those thoughts I was having away from the club could just disappear. So it was really confronting to have that for the first time where it really showed up on the field. So in the days following, he couldn't shake the feeling of that guilt and shame about his performance after we lost to the Swans. I was turning to alcohol to numb that feeling, he said. The club and Hollands mutually agreed the time had arrived for him to have what he describes as a serious reset. He was admitted to a mental health retreat where he spent 4 weeks dealing with experts helping him understand his underlying challenges and to equip himself with the tools and strategies to make lasting change. He says here, "It's been the best thing possible for me. I learned so much during that time. I came out of that, I guess, being myself again, which was the main thing. I've seen or heard numerous times that it is a party thing, or that I don't care enough about the game, or I don't want to be a professional, and I'm out doing all sorts of things, whereas really it's just been that I isolated myself from the people closest to me and knocked back support and tried to deal with this thing on my own." So we turn to the off-season where it's been reported that he has been told to explore his options, and he's quoted here as saying, "I understand now there is some change happening at the club, and I can see why the club has asked me to be a part of that change. For me, the most important thing is to keep continuing with the process I've put in place to help me get better over this period." So on Friday, he trained with his Carlton teammates. He said he felt fit, felt strong, and ready to hopefully attack a pre-season. He's still hoping that Carlton will take him back, and he hopes to repay the faith and the support he received to get his life back on track. He said here, "Prior to my experiences with mental health, I was pretty negligent on it. I just thought it was not going to impact me. It's like an injury. I did my knee in 2020, and the day before, if you'd asked me if I ever thought I'd do my knee, I would have said no way. You just think it's never going to impact you, and that it did. It's been a big learning year. I know I can turn this into a really positive learning experience for me, and that whatever is next for me, I am extremely committed to and looking forward to whatever opportunity may pop up." So I'm not trying to be overly pessimistic, but I just can't help but feel there's more to the story than this. First of all, it's really brave, for him to come out and speak in this way. I'm a bit curious as to why it hasn't happened already. Maybe that's because the cut and thrust of the season and the flame of footy season and its emotions are heightened and everyone's talking about it. Maybe it's just not the right time. But on the one hand, this is a really talented athlete here who plays the game at a high level, and I think the game can be a solution. But on the other hand, as I said at the start of the video, he's just a human being. He's just a young man who's obviously got some things that he has to deal with. I can recall being a young man as well, 19, 20, 21, doing the worst of the worst. And I hadn't dealt with what was going on in my life as a child, and I was turning to substance as well. Does that make me an addict? I don't think it makes me an addict. I made choices every single time. I think the addict excuse, I think it's an excuse personally. I think what worked for me was being real with the decisions that I was making. And every time I did what I did, I made that conscious decision. And so the accountability is important there. And so when I read this article here, I just can't help but feel something's missing. Because there's what Elijah perceives to be the reality. There's maybe what the club perceive the reality to be. And then there's the actual reality. And that's always a tricky one here. But bottom line, we've got 2 players at the Carlton Football Club who have suffered anxiety attacks this year, which really is an issue. This is the first of its kind that I can recall covering. Maybe it's happened in the past and the club have done a good job of covering it up, but I don't recall a season where 1, let alone 2 players have had to take time away from the game because the pressure and the anxieties that are linked to playing this game at this level, force them to step away. And so what we have here is we have a young man who's trying to heal in a world that is spinning around him. And when you are trying to heal, you need to do it with peace of mind. I can only imagine what it's like to try and heal while also trying to show up as a professional in any discipline. And in this case, it's footy. So it's tricky because playing sport, working out, that's usually good for the soul. It usually makes you feel better. But it got so bad that he had to step away from his teammates and from, that sense of community within the Carlton Football Club. And so unless something else has happened which brings the game into disrepute or the like, I just struggle to see what he really did that was so bad that we need to completely turn away from him. Maybe, as we've spoken about, maybe the fact that the Carlton Football Club simply did not build the environment that they were telling the world that they were building with the high performance culture and the great, bond that they all have. Maybe that's got something to do with why he wasn't able to step into the environment and heal. Maybe he just wasn't equipped and isn't yet equipped to really know how to deal with himself. And I can understand that as well. I'm curious, do clubs and does the AFL as a whole, do they truly know how to handle players who need to step away for such reasons? I mean, what we've seen this year is a spotlight on mental health, I think more so than any other year that I can remember personally. And so clearly we're still not equipped. Clearly as an industry, we still don't know how to handle it. So do we just move Elijah on to another environment and just hope that a fresh start is what he needs? Because that seemed to be the quick fix for him last time. He's gone from Gold Coast to Carlton, fresh start, had a pretty good 2024, it must be said, and seemed to play at a high level and seemed to, play most games, only missed 2, and so it's hard. I mean, I'm judging him on the fact that he played good footy for Carlton, therefore, he seemed to be okay. But the reality is he was able to show up and play footy and be available, whereas this year he wasn't able to do that. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, look, clearly I want to send Elijah some good wishes. And I mean, I hope that he gets on top of whatever he needs to get on top of. I hope he's well equipped. I mean, the beauty of where he's at, I mean, on the one hand, it can be quite chaotic to try and heal in the footy world. But on the other hand, you're in the footy world, therefore you do have access to quite a few different services that I think most ordinary people don't have the opportunity to. So, look, I hope in an ideal world, I hope he figures it out. I hope that there's a moment in time where he can come back to Carlton, fulfill his contract, play good footy next year, heal, and then, stay at Carlton. Because I think it would be such a disappointment and such a missed opportunity here if it ended right now. So, yeah, but what do you think? How did you absorb the article? We'll chat about it in the comments and we'll go from there.